February 1959. The icy wilderness of the Ural Mountains in Russia stretches endlessly. A frozen desert of snow and silence. 9 young hikers from the Ural Polytechnic Institute begin their ambitious journey. They are strong, adventurous, and determined to conquer the harsh winter landscape. But what was meant to be a test of courage and skill would soon become one of the darkest mysteries of the 20th century. When the hikers failed to return, a search team was sent to find them. What they discovered was horrifying. A tent ripped open from the inside, belongings left behind, and bodies scattered across the snow. Even now, more than 60 years later, the world still asks the same question. What really happened that night at the Dyatlov Pass? This is the Mystery Detective. Let's begin.
The Dyatlov group was led by Igor Dyatlov, a 23-year-old student at the Ural Polytechnic Institute. He was known as a brilliant engineer, a natural leader, and a man who loved the wilderness. Joining him were 8 companions, young men and women, most of them also students. They were experienced hikers, many already veterans of long expeditions in freezing conditions. Together, they planned to ski and camp across the northern Ural Mountains during the dead of winter. Their destination was a mountain called Kholat Syakhl. In the local Mansi language, the name meant the Mountain of the Dead. For centuries, the indigenous Mansi people had considered this place dangerous and cursed. But the hikers were not afraid. In their diaries, they wrote about songs, laughter, and friendship. Photographs from the journey show smiling faces, skis strapped to their backs, and the snowy wilderness ahead. At the time, the Soviet Union was locked in the Cold War. The Ural Mountains were remote, dotted with secret military facilities. To the government, the Dyatlov expedition was just another student adventure. But to the 9 young explorers, it was meant to be the journey of a lifetime.
The man's voice became deeper and more urgent as he described the body discoveries. For days, the group skied across frozen rivers and endless fields of snow. The temperature plunged below -30 degrees Celsius, and blizzards howled through the night. Yet the hikers pressed on, recording every step in their journals and snapping photographs with their cameras. On the night of February 1st, 1959, the team set up camp on the slope of Kholat Syakhl. The decision puzzled investigators later. Why not move a little further down to a safer area among the trees? Still, the hikers pitched their large canvas tent, cooked a small meal, and went to rest. When the search party arrived weeks later, the scene they discovered made no sense. The tent had been slashed open from the inside. The hikers had cut their way out, leaving behind boots, coats, and food. The first bodies were found at the edge of the forest, near a burned-out campfire. They wore almost no clothing, only underwear, as if they had fled into the night in a blind panic. Further up the slope, searchers discovered more bodies collapsed in the snow. Some were severely injured, skulls fractured, ribs crushed, yet without any signs of external wounds. In a nearby ravine, 4 more hikers were found months later. Their injuries were even stranger. One woman was missing her tongue. Some of their clothing carried traces of radiation. The evidence painted a picture, but not one that made sense. Why would 9 experienced hikers, trained in survival, abandon their only shelter in the middle of a snowstorm? And what kind of force could cause such injuries without leaving external marks?
After the discovery of the 9 bodies, investigators were left with a puzzle that seemed impossible to solve. The case was quickly closed by Soviet authorities, but the theories began almost immediately, and they have never stopped. The most common explanation is the avalanche theory. Supporters argue that a sudden shift of snow may have trapped the hikers inside their tent, forcing them to cut their way out and flee in panic. But skeptics point out that the slope where they camped was too shallow. There was no clear evidence of an avalanche at the site, and when search teams arrived weeks later, the tent was still standing upright. Another possibility is katabatic winds, powerful gusts that roar down mountain slopes at terrifying speed. Such winds could have collapsed the tent, disoriented the hikers, and driven them into the forest. But again, there is little physical evidence to prove this. The military theory is far darker. In 1959, the Soviet Union was conducting secret weapons experiments in remote regions. Some believe the hikers may have wandered into a restricted zone. Fragments of radiation were detected on their clothing, fueling suspicions of nuclear testing. Others suggest parachute mines or sonic weapons, devices so powerful that they caused internal injuries without leaving external wounds. Then there are the eyewitness reports. On the very night of the tragedy, people in nearby villages claimed to have seen strange glowing lights in the sky above the mountains. Were these military flares? Or, as some believe, were they UFOs? Could the hikers have encountered something far beyond human explanation? Still others look to the Mansi people, the indigenous tribe of the region. Some suggested that the hikers violated sacred land and were punished. But this theory quickly lost credibility. The Mansi were peaceful, and no evidence ever linked them to the deaths. And finally, there are the most chilling ideas of all: psychological breakdown. Some believe one of the hikers may have suffered a sudden mental collapse, attacking the others in a frenzy. But this, too, fails to explain the missing tongue, the radiation, or the absence of signs of struggle. In the end, every theory raises new questions. Was it nature? Was it secrecy? Or was it something beyond our understanding? The Soviet government closed the case with a vague statement: the hikers had died due to a compelling natural force. But what that force was remains one of the greatest mysteries of the modern...
More than 60 years later, the Dyatlov Pass incident remains unsolved. Families were left with questions that may never be answered. 9 young hikers entered the mountains and never returned. The only clues: a torn tent, strange injuries, and footprints that vanished into the snow. The mystery endures, haunting, chilling, unforgettable. So we ask you, who or what killed the Dyatlov hikers? Share your thoughts in the comments below. This is the Mystery Detective. Subscribe and join us next time as we uncover more unsolved mysteries from around the world.